Hello, everyone. Welcome to Say It.
Hey everyone, so happy you are here with us today. I am Mike.
And I am Sarah.
So glad you are joining us today.
Sarah, you are not going to believe what happened to a colleague of mine.
What happened?
He found out that a company he almost invested in 3 years ago is now worth 10 times what it was. 10 times!
Oh no!
And he has been saying the same 3 things on repeat ever since. I should have invested when I had the chance.
I should have.
I could have been set for life.
That one hurts.
And I would have been so happy if I had just done it.
3 sentences, 3 completely different words, 3 completely different feelings inside them.
And 1 mistake.
Which is exactly what today is about. Would've, could've, should've.
3 of the most emotionally powerful structures in English, and almost everyone is either mixing them up or getting one of them wrong.
By the end of this episode, you will know exactly what each one means, how each one feels, and which one to reach for in any situation.
But before we start, please like and subscribe to Say It. Every new like and subscriber motivates us to prepare more episodes for you.
Now let's get into it. Would have, could have, should have.
3 structures used every single day and almost always confused with each other.
But before we look at what makes them different, there is one thing they all share.
Which is?
They all live in the same place, an imaginary past, a past that did not actually happen.
Like the colleague's 3 sentences.
Exactly. He did not invest. He is not set for life. He was not happy about it. Everything would have, could have, should have.
3 structures used every single day and almost always confused with each other.
But before we look at what makes them different, there is one thing they all share.
Which is?
They all live in the same place, an imaginary past, a past that did not actually happen.
Like the colleague's 3 sentences.
Exactly. He did not invest. He is not set for life. He was not happy about it. Everything he said was about a past that did not actually happen.
And in one of our previous episodes, we talked about would have living in exactly that place.
We did. Today, 2 more structures join it. Same address, but very different feelings when they arrive.
And they all follow the same formula.
Always. Modal plus have plus past participle. That is it. She should have called. She could have called. She would have called.
Same grammar. 3 different words in the middle. 3 completely different emotional worlds.
And the key thing, after the modal, it is always have. Never has, never had.
Even for she, he, it?
Even for she, he, it. She should have called, not she should has called, not she should had called. Always have for every subject without exception.
Now should, could, and would are words the audience already knows from present tense English.
Right. You should study, that is now. You could do it, that is now. I would go, that is now. But the moment you add have, something changes.
What changes?
Everything moves into the past, and not just any past, an imaginary past, a past that did not actually happen.
You should study, present. You should have studied, past, and you didn't.
You could do it, present. You could have done it, past, and you didn't.
I would go, present. I would have gone, past, and I didn't.
Adding have is like stepping into a time machine. You travel back, but to a version of the past that never existed.
Same formula, different feelings. And before we go into each one, what are those 3 feelings?
Would have, the imaginary result, what would have happened, the outcome in that alternate past.
Could have, the missed possibility, what was possible but did not happen.
Should have, the right thing that did not happen, regret or criticism.
Same formula, 3 different feelings.
Now, let us start with would have. Would have describes the imaginary result, what would have happened in a different past. No moral judgment, no criticism, no regret. Just the outcome in an alternate world that never existed.
And every time you use would have, two things are always true.
Two things. In the real world, something did not happen. And in the imaginary world, would have tells you what the result would have been.
If I had known, I would have called.
In the real world, I did not know. I did not call. In the imaginary world, I know and I call. That is the certain outcome.
If she had studied, she would have passed.
Real world, she did not study. She did not pass. Imaginary world, she studies. She passes. Certain.
Every single one, a condition that did not happen in the if part and a result that also did not happen in the would have part.
And the result is always certain, not possible, not maybe. In that imaginary world, it happened, definitely. That certainty is what makes would have different from could have, which we are coming to very soon.
Now, would have also works without an if clause. Sometimes there is no if sentence at all.
Yes, sometimes the reason why something did not happen comes after but in the same sentence. Sometimes it comes in the next sentence. Sometimes it's just left unsaid.
I would have called you, but I lost my phone.
The if clause is there, just hidden. If I had had my phone, I would have called, but replaces it.
I would have come to the party, but I was not feeling well.
Same idea. The reason after but explains why it did not happen.
She would have been perfect for that role.
No reason given at all, just the certain feeling in the imaginary world. She would have been perfect. She was not chosen. In a different past, she would have been.
And that brings us to would have been, because would have is not only for actions.
Right. Would have been describes states, identities, and qualities that would have existed in a different past, not something that would have happened, something that would have been true.
She would have been so happy.
Happy is a state, not an action. In that imaginary past, she feels happy. Would have been.
He would have been a wonderful father.
A wonderful father and identity. In that imaginary world, that is who he was. Would have been.
You would have been amazing at that job.
Amazing, a quality. In that imaginary past, that quality would have existed. Would have been.
And the negative, wouldn't have.
Wouldn't have describes what would not have happened, and one of its most powerful uses is reassurance.
She wouldn't have been angry if you had explained.
Reassurance, the feared outcome, her anger, would never have happened.
Don't worry, they wouldn't have minded.
Same thing. The feared result, their annoyance, would not have existed in that imaginary world.
Would have, the certain imaginary result. Would have been, the state or identity that would have existed. Wouldn't have, the outcome that would not have happened.
All neutral. All describing what the past would have looked like without judging whether it was right or wrong.
And if you want to go even deeper on would have and would have been, we have a full episode dedicated entirely to those two structures. The link is shown above.
And now, the structure that carries a very different feeling entirely.
Should have. And this is where the colleague made his mistake. I should have invested when I had the chance.
Should have. Let us deal with that immediately.
What is wrong with it?
Should have does not exist. There is no such thing as should have in English, not in any context. Never.
But it sounds completely natural.
It does, and that is exactly why so many people write it. In fast, natural speech, should have contracts to should have. The sound at the end, of, sounds identical to the word of.
So people hear should have and write should of.
Exactly, and the same happens with would have and could have. All three, always wrong in writing. Always should have, would have, could have.
Should have, would have, could have, find in casual speech. Should have, would have, could have, always wrong.
Always. Now, what does should have actually mean?
The right thing that did not happen.
Exactly. Should have is the past version of should. And just like should carries a judgment, this was the right thing to do, should have carries the same judgment but about the past. It was the right thing, and it did not happen.
And that judgment can go in two directions.
Two very different directions. The first, personal regret. When you are talking about
about yourself.
I should have invested when I had the chance.
I did not invest. I regret it. I know it was the right decision and I did not make it.
I should have studied harder.
I did not. I regret it.
I should have left earlier. I should have saved more money. I should have listened to her advice.
All of them, the same feeling. I was wrong not to do this, and now I know it.
And the second direction?
Criticism of someone else. Same structure, different pronoun.
He should have told the truth.
He did not. I am pointing that out.
She should have apologized immediately.
She did not. I am criticizing that.
You should have called me when you arrived. I was worried.
Same judgment, but directed outward at someone else's behavior.
So I should have personal regret. You, he, she should have criticism.
And the negative shouldn't have describes something that was wrong but happened anyway.
I shouldn't have eaten so much. I did, and now I feel terrible.
She shouldn't have quit her job. She did. It was a mistake.
You shouldn't have said that. You did. It was wrong.
Now, there is one more use of should have that is completely different from regret and criticism, and it is one that most learners never learn.
Which one?
Expectancy, when you believe something has already happened based on normal circumstances.
That sounds very different.
It is, and there is one phrase that signals it almost every time.
Which phrase?
By now. His plane should have arrived by now. If everything went normally, it landed. The speaker is not criticizing the plane. They are not regretting anything. They believe it arrived. They are just checking.
They should have finished by now.
Based on normal progress, they're done.
The package should have been delivered by now.
Expected, anticipated, no judgment involved.
So the moment you see should have plus by now, that is expectation, not regret.
Always, and two more quick ones worth knowing. Should have can also be warm and enthusiastic.
Like, you should have been there. It was incredible.
We should have done this sooner.
Lighthearted, positive, the same structure, but the feeling is completely different.
And one fixed expression that every learner needs. When someone gives you a gift, a native speaker's most natural response is,
"Oh, you really shouldn't have."
Meaning you did not need to do this, but thank you. It is warm, it is genuine, and it is one of the most natural things you will ever say to someone.
Should have, the right thing that did not happen, personal regret. Criticism of others. Shouldn't have, it was wrong but happened anyway. By now, expectation. And you really shouldn't have, the warmest expression in this entire family.
Now the third structure. And this one is the most complex of the three.
Could have. And the reason it is the most complex, it has more uses than the other two.
Should have always carries a judgment. Would have always describes a result. But could have, it shifts depending on the situation. The same two words, different feelings each time.
So what is the core meaning?
At its heart, could have describes what was possible but did not happen. The past version of could, not whether it was right, not what the outcome would have been. Simply, it was within reach and it did not happen.
I could have gone directly to university, but I decided to travel for a year.
It was possible. The option was there. He did not take it. No judgment about whether that was right or wrong, just it was possible.
She could have become a doctor, but she chose a different career.
The ability and the opportunity existed. She went a different way. Could have.
We could have gone to the beach, but we stayed home instead.
All three, the same idea. Something was within reach. It did not happen. No verdict on whether it should have happened.
That is the key difference from should have.
Exactly. Should have says, it was the right thing and I did not do it. Could have simply says, it was possible. No right or wrong attached.
Now, the second use, and this one carries the strongest emotion of all.
Near miss. Relief. When something terrible was possible and, thank goodness, it did not happen.
That car came so close, we could have been killed.
Not a missed opportunity, not a judgment, pure relief. Something terrible was possible and, thankfully, it did not happen.
This is the most emotionally vivid use of could have, and once you know it,
You will hear it everywhere.
And the third use, mild criticism, softer than should have, could have for mild criticism, says you had the ability, you had the option, and you didn't bother.
You could have called me when you arrived.
Mild reproach. It was so easy. Why didn't you?
He could have at least said thank you.
The least he could have done, and he didn't.
You could have warned us.
All of them. Softer than should have. Should have would say, you were wrong not to do this. Could have says, you had every opportunity, and you still didn't.
So 3 uses: lost opportunity, near miss and relief, mild criticism.
And now the negative, couldn't have. And this one is surprising because it has 2 completely different meanings.
The first meaning, past impossibility. Something was genuinely not possible.
I couldn't have arrived any earlier. There was a terrible traffic jam.
Not a choice, not an option. Genuinely impossible.
She couldn't have driven there. Her car keys are still here.
Physical impossibility. It simply could not have happened.
And the second meaning, this is the one that surprises everyone, the superlative pattern.
Which pattern?
Couldn't have been plus an adjective. It means something was at the absolute extreme, the best possible, the worst possible, the kindest possible.
The timing couldn't have been worse.
Worst possible timing. It could not have been any worse than this.
The weather couldn't have been better.
Absolutely perfect. It could not have been any better.
She couldn't have been kinder.
As kind as it is possible to be, the extreme.
I couldn't have done it without you.
It was impossible without you, genuinely.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
One of the most natural compliments in English. You said it perfectly. I could not have expressed it better.
Once you know this pattern, you will start using it immediately. It is everywhere in natural English.
Could have. What was possible but did not happen. 3 uses. Lost opportunity, near miss and relief, mild criticism. Couldn't have, genuine impossibility, and the superlative extreme. Couldn't have been better, worse, kinder.
And there is one more negative form in this family, a very specific one that will not appear in any other episode.
Wouldn't have. And this one is unique in the whole family.
How so?
All the other forms we have covered, should have, could have, would have, they are all about things that did not happen. But this one is about expressing frustration, specifically when something was so easy, so effortless, and the person still did not do it.
That sounds very specific.
It is, and the structure is always the same. It wouldn't have hurt, or killed, or taken long, plus to and a verb.
It wouldn't have hurt her to visit us occasionally.
Hurt is not literal. It means visiting would have cost her nothing, no effort, no pain. It was the easiest possible thing, and she still did not do it.
So this is frustration.
The most passive-aggressive frustration in this entire family. The speaker is not saying she should have visited directly. They are saying it was so effortless, such a small thing, and she still could not be bothered.
It wouldn't have killed him to say thank you.
Killed is not literal either. It means it was nothing, the smallest possible effort, and he did not even do that.
It wouldn't have taken long to call.
Such a small amount of time, and still nothing.
It wouldn't have hurt to apologize.
The easiest thing in the world, and she could not even manage that.
So the it is always fixed. It wouldn't have hurt, it wouldn't have killed, it wouldn't have taken long. Always it, never she or he.
Always it, and hurt and killed are never literal. They are just the most natural ways to say this required no effort, and they still did not do it.
How is this different from should have?
Should have is direct. She should have visited. Clear criticism. This was the right thing. She did not do it.
And wouldn't have.
Indirect, passive-aggressive. The emphasis is not just that it was right, but that it was so effortless. The frustration comes from how little it would have cost them.
It wouldn't have hurt her to visit feels more frustrated than she should have visited.
Much more, because it adds, this was nothing. This required no effort at all, and she still could not manage it.
It wouldn't have hurt, it wouldn't have killed, it wouldn't have taken long.
3 phrases, 1 feeling. The most indirect way to express frustration in this entire family, and the only episode it will ever appear in.
So we have would have, should have, and could have, all 3 in the same imaginary past, all 3 following the same formula, but 3 completely different feelings.
And the clearest way to feel that difference is to put all 3 side by side. Same situation, 3 sentences, 3 completely different worlds.
The situation: a person did not study for an exam and they failed.
First sentence: if I had studied, I would have passed.
Would have, the imaginary result. In that alternate past, I pass, certain. No judgment about whether studying was right or wrong, just that would have been the outcome.
Second sentence: I could have studied more, but I wasted time.
Could have, the missed possibility. Studying was within reach. I did not take it. No moral verdict, just the observation that it was possible.
Third sentence: I should have studied harder.
Should have, the judgment. It was the right thing to do. I did not do it. I feel the weight of that now.
Same situation, same person, same exam. 3 sentences, and each one describes a completely different emotional relationship with what happened.
Would have, what the outcome would have been. Could have, what was possible. Should have, what was right.
Now, one more scenario. A friend was in a minor car accident.
We would have arrived on time if there had not been an accident.
Would have, the imaginary result. In a different past, we arrive on time, the certain outcome of a condition that did not happen.
That could have been much worse.
Could have, relief about a near miss. Something terrible was possible, and thankfully it did not happen.
He should have driven more carefully.
Should have, criticism. It was the right thing, he did not do it.
3 sentences, 3 modals, 3 completely different feelings inside them.
And there is one more dimension worth understanding. When you use these in an if sentence, the one you choose in the result part tells the listener something important.
What does it tell them?
How certain you are about the imaginary outcome.
Show me.
If I had studied, I would have passed.
Would have, certain. In that imaginary world, I pass, definitely.
If I had studied, I could have passed.
Could have, possible. In that imaginary world, I might have passed, but it was not guaranteed.
If I had studied, I might have passed.
Might have, uncertain, just a chance. Maybe yes, maybe no.
Same condition, same if sentence, but the word you choose in the result tells the listener exactly how confident you are about the outcome.
Would have, the definite outcome. Could have, a real possibility. Might have, just a chance.
So the next time you are building an if sentence, ask yourself one question. In that imaginary world, how certain is the result? Then choose the right word.
Would have, definite. Could have, possible. Might have, uncertain.
The same formula, 3 different levels of confidence.
And 3 completely different feelings about the past.
Now, if there is one confusion that comes up more than any other with these 3 structures, it is this one.
Which one?
Could have versus should have, because they are the closest to each other. Both describe something that did not happen. Both can express mild criticism, and yet the feeling inside them is completely different.
What is the difference?
One question separates them. Am I making a moral judgment, saying something was right or wrong? If yes, should have. If no, could have.
That simple?
That simple. Could have says it was possible. No verdict on whether it was right. Should have says it was the right thing, a clear moral call.
Same situation, 2 different feelings.
I could have called you.
It was possible. Maybe I just did not want to. No self-criticism at all.
I should have called you.
It was the right thing and I did not do it. Self-criticism, maybe an apology coming.
Same action, same person, completely different emotional weight.
She could have been a doctor.
She had the ability and the opportunity. It was within reach. No judgment about whether medicine was the right path.
She should have been a doctor.
It was the right career for her, a moral judgment. Someone is saying she made the wrong choice.
And the most common confusion, using could have when the situation actually needs should have.
Yes, this one comes up constantly. I could have been more patient with my children.
That sounds fine.
It sounds fine, but the feeling is wrong. Being patient with your children is not just something that was possible, it is something that was right. The moral weight is there, which means...
I should have been more patient with my children.
Exactly. Could have removes the judgment. Should have puts it back where it belongs.
And the other direction, using should have when there is actually no moral judgment involved.
I should have been a millionaire if I had invested early.
Wrong. Becoming a millionaire is not a moral obligation. There's no right or wrong here, just it was possible.
I could have been a millionaire if I had invested early.
That is it. A missed opportunity. No verdict, just it was within reach.
Now, the colleague's second sentence, I could have been set for life.
Is that correct?
Completely. Being set for life was a real possibility. He almost invested. He did not. No moral judgment about whether investing was the right or wrong decision, just it was possible, and now it is not.
Could he have said, I should have been set for life?
No, that does not work. You cannot should have a financial outcome. Should have is for actions, things you choose to do or not do, not for results.
So should have invested, correct. Should have been set for life, wrong.
Exactly. The action was his choice. The outcome was the result of that choice. Should have applies to the choice, not the outcome.
One question. Am I making a moral judgment?
Yes, should have. No, could have. That one question every time.
Now something that makes all three click into place in a way that nothing else does.
In real English storytelling, these three almost never travel alone. They travel together in a chain.
A chain?
Yes, should have starts it, could have builds on it, would have closes it.
Why that order?
Because that is how regret actually works. First, you identify what was right, should have. Then you see what was possible as a result, could have. Then you feel the certain outcome you missed, would have.
Show me.
I should have studied harder. I could have passed the exam, and if I had, I would have gotten into the university I wanted.
Should have, the right thing I did not do. Could have, what was possible if I had done it. Would have, the certain outcome waiting at the end.
He should have left earlier. He could have caught the train. He would have been here by now.
3 sentences, a complete picture. What was right, what was possible, what would have happened.
She should have applied for that job. She could have gotten it. She would have been perfect for it.
Every chain follows the same arc. Should have sets up the mistake. Could have shows the door that was open. Would have shows what was waiting on the other side.
And now go back to the colleague from the very beginning of this episode.
I should have invested when I had the chance.
Should have, not should of. The right thing he did not do.
I could have been set for life.
Could have, what was possible, the door that was open.
I would have been so happy if I had just done it.
Would have, the certain outcome on the other side of that door. Happiness, waiting in a past that never happened.
3 sentences, one complete story of regret, and now we understand every word of it.
Every word, apart from the of.
Always have, never of.
And that brings us to the mistakes, the exact sentences that go wrong most often.
And we have already fixed 2 of them during the episode.
We have 4 mistakes, fast and clean.
Starting with the one we have mentioned more than once.
Shoulda called you.
Of, always wrong. After any modal, should, could, would, it is always have. The of sound you hear in fast speech is have, not of.
Should have called you, could have called you, would have called you. Always have, always.
Mistake number 2, and this one is the subtlest of all 4.
I could have been more patient with my children.
Sounds completely natural.
It does, but being patient with your children is not just something that was possible, it is something that was right. The moral judgment is there, which means
I should have been more patient with my children.
could have removes the judgment, should have puts it back. Whenever a moral failing is involved, should have, always.
Mistake number 3,
She should has studied harder.
has. After any modal verb, would, could, should, it is always have. Never has, never had, for every subject, without exception.
She should have studied harder. He could have left earlier. They would have known. Always have, for all of them.
And mistake number 4, this one is one of the most common errors in the whole topic.
If I could have known, I would have called.
Could have in the if part of the sentence.
Would have, could have, and should have never go in the if part, never. The if part has one form and one form only, had plus the verb.
If I had known, I would have called.
If she had studied, she would have passed.
If they had left earlier, they would have caught the train.
Had in the if part, would have, could have, or should have in the result. They never swap. They never match.
4 mistakes, 4 fixes.
Should of, always wrong. Always should have.
Could have for a moral failing, always wrong. Always should have.
Should has or should had, always wrong. Always should have.
Could have or should have in the if part, always wrong. Always had.
And 3 questions that solve everything else.
Is this the imaginary result of a condition certain in that alternate world?
Would have.
Was it possible but did not happen? No moral judgment.
Could have.
Was it the right thing that did not happen? Moral judgment involved.
Should have.
3 questions, 3 answers. That is the whole system.
Finally, it's time to hear all 3 working together in a real conversation.
Roleplay time.
The scenario? Monday morning, Mike had a difficult weekend, a minor car accident on Saturday, a missed flight on Sunday, and a work presentation on Friday that did not go well. I am listening and reacting.
Let's go.
You look exhausted. What happened to you this weekend?
Where do I start? Friday first. The presentation at work, it was a disaster.
What went wrong?
I shouldn't have stayed up so late the night before. I was exhausted by the time I got there.
Oh no, how did it go?
Not well. I should have prepared more. I knew the material, I just wasn't ready to present it.
You couldn't have known it was going to go that badly, though.
Maybe, but I should have listened to my colleague. She told me to do a practice run on Thursday. I didn't.
It wouldn't have taken long to do one practice run.
Exactly. 20 minutes. That is all it would have taken. Anyway, then Saturday.
The accident?
A car came out of nowhere at a junction. We just caught the edge of it.
That could have been so much worse.
It really could have. We could have been seriously hurt. The timing couldn't have been worse either, right before we were supposed to leave for the airport.
So you missed the flight?
We would have made it if the accident hadn't happened. We arrived at the airport 20 minutes after the gate closed.
Could you not get on another flight?
We could have, but it would have cost a fortune, so we just came home.
I should have called you. I had no idea any of this was happening.
Don't worry, you couldn't have known. And honestly, by the time we got home, I just needed to sleep.
Your presentation results should have come through by now, though. Have you heard anything?
Nothing yet. They should have sent the feedback by now. I keep checking my phone.
I am sure it will be fine. You would have been much better if you had gotten a proper night's sleep.
I should have, could have, would have the whole weekend.
The whole weekend. But you are here, and next time,
Next time, I will just do the practice run.
Let us pause there.
Did you notice how naturally would have, could have, and should have came up in that conversation?
Let us pick out a few moments. You said, I shouldn't have stayed up so late.
Shouldn't have. It was wrong and I did it anyway. I stayed up late. I regret it now.
And that could have been so much worse.
Could have. Near miss and relief. The accident was terrible, but it could have been far worse. Thank goodness it wasn't.
And it wouldn't have taken long to do one practice run.
Wouldn't have. Frustration. Such a small thing. 20 minutes, and I still didn't do it.
And we would have made it if the accident hadn't happened.
Would have. The imaginary result. In a different past, no accident, we make the flight. Certain. That was the outcome waiting for us.
And your presentation results should have come through by now.
Should have plus by now. Expectation, not regret, not criticism. I believe the feedback has arrived. I am just waiting to see it. 5 different uses, 5 different feelings. And in that whole conversation, did it feel like grammar?
Not at all. It felt like 2 colleagues talking on a Monday morning about a terrible weekend.
Because that is exactly what it was. Once these structures become natural, you stop thinking about which one to use. You just reach for the right feeling.
The imaginary result, the missed possibility, the right thing that did not happen.
Same formula, 3 different feelings, every single time.
And that is exactly what today was about. 3 structures, 1 formula. 3 completely different feelings.
Let us lock it in, fast.
All 3, modal plus have plus past participle, always have, never has, never had, never of.
Would have, the imaginary result, the certain outcome in a past that never happened. No moral judgment.
Should have, the right thing that did not happen, personal regret, criticism of others, and with by now, expectation.
Could have, what was possible but did not happen. Lost opportunity, near miss and relief, mild criticism.
In an if sentence, had in the if part, would have, could have, or should have in the result. They never swap.
And the chain, should have, starts it. Could have, builds on it. Would have, closes it. A complete story of regret in 3 sentences.
Now, one last thought before we go.
We spent this whole episode in the world of regret and criticism and missed opportunity.
But there is one sentence from this entire family that has nothing to do with any of that.
Which one?
You really shouldn't have.
The gift expression.
When someone does something kind for you, brings you a gift, does you a favor, you really shouldn't have. Meaning, you did not need to do this, but thank you. It is warm, it is genuine, it is one of the most natural things a native speaker says.
So the same structure that carries regret and criticism also carries gratitude.
Same formula, 3 different feelings. Even at the very end, the rule holds.
It really does.
Now your challenge, what is one thing you should have done differently this year? Write the full chain if you can. I should have, then I could have, then I would have. 3 sentences, 1 complete story. We read every single one.
And if you want to go deeper on would have, our would have and would have been episode covers every use in full. The link is in the description.
And if this episode helped you, please share it with one person who is learning English right now.
Subscribe to Say It so you never miss a new episode. We'll see you in the next one. Take care, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.